Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome back to another video. So after last night's Edmonton Oilers Game 7 win over the Vancouver Canucks, the conference finals are set. We have our two conference final matchups. I wouldn't say they're like shocking per se outside of maybe the Rangers and Carolina Hurricanes, but that was a toss-up series. The favorites have pretty much won every single round in these playoffs. So now we have our conference finals. We got Dallas versus Edmonton starting on Thursday night, and we got Florida versus the New York Rangers starting up tomorrow at 8 p.m. So I got to give my predictions. My predictions considering I had Carolina making the Stanley Cup final on the east side of the bracket. So I didn't really account for this kind of matchup happening, as well as the fact that although Dallas was my Stanley Cup pick, maybe I'm not picking them to advance against the Edmonton Oilers. We're gonna have to wait and see. I'm gonna have to break it down. So we're gonna dive into these. I'm gonna tell you what I think is gonna happen in each series, what the advantage is for each team. If this team is gonna win this series, what do they have to do? What can they exploit? All that good stuff. Let's start it off with Edmonton versus Dallas, because first off, I am picking Dallas to win in 6 games. I don't know why I acted like, oh, maybe I might switch it up for suspense. I am going with the Dallas Stars in 6 games. I'm seeing a lot of people after last night. I saw a lot of people saying that like Edmonton's going to get worked by the Dallas Stars. I think that's a massive hyperbole. We're acting like this is the 2013 Blackhawks that the Edmonton Oilers are running into, even though Dallas has been my Stanley Cup pick. But I do think they are going to be able to beat Edmonton. And the main thing of this, it's depth, man. It is depth. These are two drastically different teams. When looking at Edmonton and their scoring, their big five offensively, and then Ekholm's just fantastic both ways, but their big five has shown up. The rest of the team, not as much, especially with their bottom six and outside of that top pair defensively in terms of offense, and even defensively, they're nothing special. You compare that to the Dallas Stars. Yes, their star players have not shown up to the level of Edmonton, but they also didn't get to play the LA Kings and dominate them in the first round, so they don't have as much impressive stats. They had to play Vegas and then the Colorado Avalanche. They're more of a fairly distributed scoring system for the Dallas Stars, so I think when looking at it, that's the main thing that pops out to me. Dallas, as long as their top two pairs of Miro Heiskanen and Harley and Esa Lindell and Tanev, that shutdown defensive pair, can stop Edmonton's top six. I think that they're going to take care of business pretty easily in 6 games. So when looking at it, unless Edmonton's stars really come out to play, I don't really see Dallas losing this series. I don't think it's going to be a beatdown. Again, I have it going to 6. Wouldn't shock me if it goes to 7, because on top of not only the depth being such a glaring difference between these two teams, you look at it in net, and that also is a pretty big difference. Jake Ottinger has a .918 save percentage, has been playing much better, especially of late, and he has a .917 career save percentage. You compare that to Stuart Skinner, who, although he did his job in those final 2 games, he has an .881 save percentage this year in the playoffs, on top of an .882 career last year. He had an .883. So the goaltending is massive here. And even if they have to go to the backups, I'm still picking Scott Wedgwood. I'm probably picking Scott Wedgwood over Stuart Skinner, but I'm definitely taking Wedgwood over Calvin Pickard. So Dallas is the far deeper team. Dallas has impressed me more against harder opponents compared to Shilov's Canucks team, as well as the LA Kings. I think Vegas and Colorado might arguably beat Edmonton if they were to play. When it comes to what Edmonton would have to do in order to win this series, it's obviously the special teams. We're looking at the special teams. Edmonton's power play has been fantastic in these playoffs, converting at 37.5%, and they were even better than the Stars in the regular season at 26%. Dallas's power play has also been pretty solid at 29%, and on the regular season, they were 24.2%. So if this happens, we see with Edmonton, if they can get 2 to 3 calls a game and convert on their chances, if they can bank 1 or 2 power play goals every single game, they're going to be in the mix. And even Edmonton's penalty kill has been fantastic this season, or this playoffs, at 91.4%. You compare that to Dallas's, they're only clicking at a 69.2% in terms of penalty kill. So Edmonton converting at 37.5 on the power play, Dallas 69.2. I think that if you're an Edmonton fan, you can cling on to that. Yes, you might get called power play merchants, but when it's so bad, when Dallas's penalty kill has not looked very good, and granted, again, Dallas had to play Vegas, the Vegas Golden Knights, who have a very, very good power play. At Colorado is that big 3 on that power play is not easy to slow down versus Edmonton on their penalty kill. They've played Vancouver as an okay, actually they weren't that good this playoffs, but an okay power play. LA doesn't really scare you on the power play. So I think that the opponents do factor in, but the fact that Dallas does have a 69.2% penalty kill, Edmonton 37.5% power play, that's the main sticking point that I would have for Edmonton. They do have a special teams battle, 5-on-5 and goaltending, not really in their direction. So that if Edmonton is going to win this series, that's what's going to happen. Now I want to look at 2 X factors on each team. When looking at it, I'm not going to pick like a top 3 player on the team. I expect those guys to play good. These are guys that maybe haven't played that good, that if they actually exceed expectations and play to the best abilities, that they would be massive for their team. So we're going to go Dallas first. For me, when it comes to Dallas, I think Thomas Harley needs to step up. Yes, his underlying numbers have been pretty solid. When looking at it, he has a 54% expected goals percentage at 5-on-5, 57% overall goals percentage. I think a lot of that does have to do with the fact that Heiskanen has kind of carried him this year. But when you look at him, or this year in the playoffs at least, but when you look at him in terms of his offensive production, he only has 2 assists, no goals in 13 games. Dallas is going to need Thomas Harley to really step up, not only on the defensive end in terms of stopping Draisaitl and McDavid. He's going to get deployed a lot against them. They're going to need him to show up offensively. This is a guy that had 15 goals, 32 assists, 47 points in the regular season. They're going to need Edmonton's going to have like 2, maybe even 3 games where they score at least 3 goals. I think you can contain McDavid and Draisaitl. You can't really fully shut them down. It's going to be a decently high scoring. I don't expect Dallas to churn out 4 wins of like 2-1, 3-2. Edmonton's going to get some of their own, but can you contain them? And not only that, can Thomas Harley help in a big way in terms of controlling play at the blue line and generating some serious offense? That is going to be massive because Lindell and Tanev have been very good in this playoff run. Heiskanen has been very good. I wouldn't say Harley has been bad, but I know he can bring out more, especially offensively going forward. And when looking at the Edmonton Oilers X Factor, again, I'm not going to pick up McDavid and no goalies for the X Factors because no shit Stuart Skinner has to play good. No shit Jake Ottinger has to play good if they want to win the goddamn series. My X Factor is either a healthy Adam Henrique in terms of providing depth scoring, but right now with his ankle injury, I'm not sure he's going to play like the first couple games of this series, if at all. My actual X Factor that is going to be playing is Darnell Nurse. I know that might be crazy, but it's more so he's an X factor because we've seen him play so bad and take so many dumb penalties. When looking at him in these playoffs, he has a 30% on ice goals percentage. That is horrible, and it's not that much better analytically. It's 40% expected goals. Compare that with him off the ice. Edmonton has a 53% expected goals percentage. During the regular season, those numbers were far better. He had a 50% expected goals percentage. 50% on ice goals percentage as well as 55% expected goals. So when looking at Darnell Nurse, they're going to need one of their defensemen to step up outside of their top pair that has been fantastic, that I think will kind of hold their own against the Dallas Stars. In terms of Dallas's depth just coming, they're going to need Darnell Nurse to play. I'm not expecting, again, $9.25 million hockey, but if he can be a good, not take dumb penalties, second pair defenseman for Edmonton, that is going to be massive because they have found the way to win with him not playing not playing good. If he can actually show up in this series, I think Edmonton's going to have a very decent chance at winning this series. So Darnell Nurse, there's one extreme where he plays horrible and kind of costs them this series, or is another reason why they lose in 5 or 6, or he plays okay to above average and they win this series in terms of Darnell Nurse. So I have the Dallas Stars winning in 6 games. I think it is going to be a pretty close series, but at the end of the day, Dallas is far too deep. I really like their top 2 defensive pairs, and I think they can slow down Edmonton's rather top-heavy team overall. So Dallas in 6 games, give me that. Okay, so next up, we got the Eastern Conference Final, New York Rangers versus the Florida Panthers. And I honestly went back and forth on this. I wasn't sure who I was going to pick. I'm going with the Florida Panthers in 7 games. I am going to go, and I'm not trying to be a Rangers hater. Again, they're playing another top tier contender. Even when I picked against them against the Carolina Hurricanes, I had that going 7. I wasn't like Rangers or Carolina in 5. Fuck the Rangers. This is a fantastic matchup. These are 2 top 5 teams in the entire NHL when looking at it, but I do think the Florida Panthers, we've seen them have that playoff success this year as well as last year. I think that they can dictate 5-on-5 play like the Carolina Hurricanes, but they actually have the finishing and the playoff success experience in order to actually grind out these 1-goal games. You look at the Rangers and the Hurricanes, those first 3 games, it really came down to special teams. And again, Carolina was a very good regular season special teams, but they absolutely shat the bed with their special teams. So I think Florida does have the depth and as well as the finishing, as well as the goaltender when looking at it compared to a Carolina that was running out Freddie Anderson after being out for most of the season with blood clots, and Kochetkov. Bobrovsky isn't playing that good. Don't get me wrong. He has a 902 and a 2.37 goals against, but we've seen that he can step up in the playoffs compared to maybe Carolina's situation. So I think that they're going to be able to get those greasy goals. I think they're going to match New York's physicality, maybe even push them around a little bit. It's going to be war. It is going to be absolute war, but I think as long as the Florida Panthers don't start 0-15 on their power play through the first 4 or basically 4 games. It was like until the Brady Shea goal. They will win this series. It's going to go back and forth. Again, I'm not like the utmost confident in Florida. It's going to be a war. It wouldn't shock me if Igor Shesterkin plays fantastic. The Rangers win in 6 games. He posts a .930 save percentage. I don't like picking against Igor Shesterkin. I'm a dummy for picking him against him for the Carolina Hurricanes, considering the goalie gap was so massive in that series. And my dumbass literally made a video graphic before the playoffs, and I had Igor Shesterkin as the goalie that I trust the most. But I do trust Bobrovsky a lot. He was third in that graphic. When looking at the special teams, again, I'm going to dive into this a little bit more. In the regular season, the Rangers ranked third in power play and penalty kill. In the postseason, that's third in power play at 31.2%. Playoffs, their penalty kill has been fantastic, in part because they just shut down the Carolina Hurricanes at 89.5%. You look at the Panthers, not as good in the regular season, but still a very, very good special teams team. Eighth in power play and 6th in penalty kill. In the postseason, their power play has been a little bit disappointing at 22%, ranks them 8th out of every single playoff team, but their penalty kill also has been very good at 3rd, 86.1%. So as long as they can slow down that Rangers power play and keep this at 5-on-5, I think that they will get it done. Again, it's a toss-up. If I were making odds, I'd say 51% Florida, 49% New York, but I think they have the top 9 that can match the New York Rangers, and honestly, I probably prefer their top 9. I think it's more well-balanced out, even though Kreider and Zibanejad have really stepped up in terms of their 5-on-5 play. I'm going to go with Florida. I think Florida's top 3 defensemen are also, although they don't have an Adam Fox, I like their herd of top 3 defensemen over, say, the New York Rangers. Now, when looking at X factors, I think the Rangers' X factor is not one player, it's one line. Will Cooley, Alex Wenberg, Capo Caco. This line has not really scored a ton. They only have 2 goals at 5-on-5 in these playoffs, but they have dominated possession, 69.8% expected goals percentage. I was nervous about the Rangers outside of that second line of Panarin, Trocheck, and Lafreniere. This third line, although not the most explosive offensively, I think that they can match Florida's very, very solid bottom 6, especially after they acquired Vladimir Tarasenko and moved some guys down of Luostarinen, Lundell, and Rodriguez. That is going to be a very important matchup, the battle of third lines in this, and I like how the Rangers' third line has really showed up. They're going to need more offense. They have been fantastic defensively, but if they can score even 2 5-on-5 or 3 5-on-5 goals in this series, that is going to be massive for the New York Rangers. That is my X factor for them. I think they can, even in a defensive role, play against Florida's top 6 and kind of shut it down. They're going to be massive for the New York Rangers. Now, when looking at Florida's X factor, it's Aaron Ekblad, man. He has not really been the same player since he got hurt back in 2022. He had 57 points in 61 games. Even last year, he was again dealing with massive injuries. He hasn't been the same guy. Only 4 assists in 11 playoff games this year. The Forsling-Ekblad pair has still been good in terms of goals percentage these playoffs. 61.5% goals percentage together. They played basically every single minute together in 5-on-5, but the underlying numbers are not as impressive. 46.5% expected goals percentage in these playoffs. You compare that to the regular season where they were a top 3 pair in all of hockey. They had a 66.7% goals percentage in like 700 minutes together, as well as 58.9% expected goals percentage. Aaron Ekblad is going to have to step up in this series. I trust Forsling, especially defensively. I trust Montour to be that puck-moving, fantastic offensive defenseman that is pretty solid defensively. Aaron Ekblad needs to hold his own defensively, especially against a team like New York that is very aggressive on the rush. He needs to hold his ground, play very sound and fundamental defense, and I think he's going to play a massive role for Florida in terms of slowing down this New York attack. If he continues to play a little bit below average, I think the Rangers win this in 6 or 7. I think I flip my prediction. If I know Ekblad's going to give me below average play, I'd probably flip this. I think he is going to step up. And as a result, the Florida Panthers are going to advance to the Stanley Cup final for the 2nd straight year. Now, in the Stanley Cup final, you can probably assume who my pick is. This was my preseason bracket, or my pre-playoffs bracket. I've been on Dallas since like mid-January, so don't call me an absolute front runner. This bracket has been 11 through 12 thus far. I take no credit for it because, again, I did pick heavily favorites. Unless Dallas wins, I consider that a failure of a bracket, if I'm going to be honest. But let me know in the comments, what do you think about this? Who do you have winning? Again, I think the Stars, I'd say like 65-35% over to Dallas. Florida, New York, it's a toss-up. Maybe it's just a hater in me that decides to go with Florida, but I wouldn't be shocked if New York wins it. I know I lost my hair because of the Rangers-Carolina bet. Even in that breakdown, if you rewatch my breakdown before the playoffs, after the first round when I revised my predictions, I didn't really revise anything. It was the same picks, but I just broke it down differently. I have always said that it would have been a close series. The Rangers are a legit contender, and now that I picked against them, they're probably going to win again. So Ranger fans, you should be happy. Let me know in the comments. What do you think about this? And I'll be seeing the next one.